Okay, good evening, everybody. What a wonderful opportunity to start the webinar of the African Athletics Coaches Association. In short, before I introduce Frank Dick to welcome all and to explain where all the associations fit in, I would just like in short again to say to you why we have the African Coaches Association. First of all, it is an apolitical association. It doesn't interfere with any of the associations, whether it's Athletics South Africa or whether it's Uganda Athletics. We don't interfere with any of their rules or obligation. We're an independent association for coaches of the African athletes. And it's also, we're a regional partner of the Global Athletics Coaches Academy, the GACA, which most probably will change a little bit later, which Frank will inform you about. And it is for the development and support and the advancement of coaching in Africa by sharing knowledge, information, research, and experience of athletes and related matters. We aim to create, promote, and develop all at the African Athletics Association. We also look after the interest of members by providing advice, support, assistance, athletics, and news to improve athletic performances. Now, to start this meeting officially, I'm going to ask a very distinguished person in coaching, Prof. Dr. Sir Frank Dick. We've seen all his accolades. He is most probably the person in charge of athletics coaching that has changed athletics coaches tremendously. But the incredible thing is that we can call him our friend, a friend of African athletics and of African coaches. Without any further ado, Frank, over to you to open officially our first webinar.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Rita, and especially for calling me sir, because I'm not really in that category yet. Very, very nice of you to think of me in this kind of dimension. But thanks very much indeed, and thanks all of you for tuning in tonight. Listen, just a little piece of my own personal history. Looking back in time, there was a movie that I really enjoyed a long time ago called Cool Hand Luke. And the punchline in Cool Hand Luke is, what we have here is a failure to communicate. Now, in my experience, whether it's working with businesses or whether it's working with sport, the one single problem that most organizations have is just that, communication. And without communication, how can we become the connected coaching community that has been my dream and the dream of the Global Athletics Coaching Academy colleagues? We want to have a connected coaching community globally. And how we've managed to move towards that is through having in each area a coaches association. The working group for the African Athletics Coaches Association has been working frantically to work out how can we bring this giant continent together to have a coaches association. We know there are language issues. We have English and French and Portuguese and so many other languages that belong to the great continent of Africa. But somehow or other, language itself cannot be something that stops us moving forward. And my congratulations and thanks to the working group. Letu and Rita have led the program here. And just to remind you, what is it that we want area coaches associations to do? Because one of the things that we want to come out of this evening is a giant step towards making sure that that happens. Area coaches associations facilitate connecting coaches. They facilitate informing coaches. And they facilitate coaches' lifelong learning. That's what these area associations are about. And if you think about it, none of us in this audience tonight can learn as fast on our own as we can together. And again, we come back to the whole concept of communication and connectedness. World Athletics strongly supports coaching in all its shapes and forms, and congratulates the working group in taking us to this point this evening. I would personally, and on behalf of the Global Athletics Coaches Association, thank Rita and Jimson, of course, who's organized the technology behind all of this, and Pieter, who is going to be speaking to us, and in fact, all of you who will contribute and listen to the work this evening. My sincere thanks for being part of this journey to creating a connected coaching community. Let's make this the start of something really big. Year-round webinars hosted by all of the area coaches associations. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So that's my dream. That's been the dream of GACA, who may change its title from the Global Athletics Coaching Academy to a Global Athletics Coaching Alliance, to bring together this huge family of area coaches associations. So Rita, thank you for introducing me. Remember, I'm not a sir at this point, but you can call me sir if you like. Over to you to launch this evening.
Thank you very much, Frank. We really appreciate your involvement and the time that you spend with us to get the African Coaches Association off the ground. Now, first of all, I would like to introduce our main speaker, Mr. Pieter Albertyn, and I would just like to give you a little bit of background. He is a physical therapist, he is a sports massage therapist, and he's a trauma counselor, a therapist. Now, sport has always played a pivotal role in his life. As from a junior, he did multiple sports, but then he specialized to become a national gymnast participating in international level. Now, all of you that know a little bit about international sport, especially a sport like gymnastics, my grandson does gymnastics, and I know it is really a time-consuming, a very, very tough sport to get to the top. And so therefore, he knows what it takes to become an international athlete. He also ran the Comrades Ultramarathon, and he played competitive squash. Now, if we come to his treatment, he aims at a holistic rehabilitation and optimization of soft tissue systems in the human body, and that is what we know as the myofascial therapy. He also is treating elite sports personalities, and I know that the Jamaican athletes that were here for altitude training, they really have a very high regard for what he did and what he actually did to help them as well and make them understand. Now, for Pieter's success in life, and this is a very, very important lesson for all of us, means more than pursuing his own achievements. His focus and his practice is to support others to experience the satisfaction of achieving what they are destined for. Now, I think that is most probably one of the most, what can I say, foundation words that I can use for any therapist in sport, is to help others achieve what they aim for and what they want. Now, the most important person of the evening, and I'm over to you. Thank you, Pieter Albertyn.
Thank you very much, Rita. I am also humbled, as our honored friend said. I would just like to share my screen here, and I hope it does come through properly. Is that viewed by everybody?
Yes, it's clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, one second, Pieter, 1 second. This is Jimson. If people on the call cannot see the screen and you just see Pieter talking, you have to go to the top bar of Zoom where you can toggle between the person and the screen. So the very black top bar, you should see Pieter Albertyn's screen on the top. Great. Thank you, Pieter.
Thank you so much. And Rita, thanks for that introduction. My topic tonight is optimal foot health for elite athletes and runners. This talk today is in no way an attempt to give a complete or comprehensive coverage of all the aspects of foot health. It's almost impossible. It's rather an introduction to some of the most relevant topics that we should consider when we talk about foot health, and what crucial role the foot of an athlete plays in achieving performance margins. I would suggest that I would think that a platform that Rita and her organization has created through this initiative would be actually a platform where we can get multiple inputs from people with interest in this, and most probably much more knowledge and wisdom than I have on this matter, that we can all add our inputs and maybe come to a much higher degree of information and achievement, more comprehensive and valid result of this. So from my side, well done, Rita, and may this be the start of big things. I will run through a presentation, I must say, in great speed, because I would rather like to just put forward a number of the issues, but in the little time I have available, so that we can have a discussion on these things. So if you find something that is unclear, or that you want more clarity, or want to have an input on while we go through this presentation, please make a note, and there will be ample time afterwards to have your comments on all of this. So if you have questions, I think I'm sure I can find out of the audience some wisdom that can answer all your great questions. So to start with, the one statement that I want to start with: your feet are the most important pieces of equipment. And for an athlete, I think it's important to understand this. I find so many athletes focusing on their muscles and developing their body in all kinds of ways, but forgetting about the importance of the feet. And as an athlete, I think we should start focusing there. One of the problems that we face is high impact repetitive stress in running leads to a high incidence of injuries, especially in the foot and lower leg injuries. The solution I would like to propose through this presentation tonight is that we should look at proactive foot health strategies so that we can plan to improve performance in that manner. And so our goal that I hope that we can achieve is actionable strategies to improve performance, prevent injuries, and extend and optimize the athletes that we serve their careers. So to start off with, I'd like to put forward this very important aspect, and that is that we work from a holistic view of movement. I think we all know the old concepts where everything with regard to movement was reduced to muscle, bone, lever concepts. That means your forearm is a lever, your bicep is the energy, and to move the lever better, you have to improve the status of the muscle, which is the bicep. Unfortunately, this way of looking at the body and of movement reduces the impact that we can have on performance. So I'd like to propose a holistic anatomical approach, which means that you understand that a symbiotically functional assortment of tissue is integrated into an energy activation process. That means your body and every part between the bicep and the forearm is a whole system of tissue and systems comprising of skin, muscle, ligaments, tendons, and bones, as well as neural structures, blood and lymph channels and vessels. And if we want to understand movement, we have to take all of this into account. And all of these systems have to work together for optimal performance. So when one part moves, the body as a whole actually responds. And this became the go-to approach in sport coaching and treatment all over the world. So the role of fascia in movement, if I can quickly refer to that, optimal functioning means that fascia allows for smooth muscle contraction and movement by reduced friction and actually transmitting force. So just for clarity, you have to understand that it's not only muscles in the body that generate energy. That is the very interesting fact that we came to understand, that all fascia can also generate energy. And the combination of fascia together with the muscles in the body, which is the myofascial system, myo meaning the Latin for muscles and fascia for all the white tissue in the body, the combination of that optimizes movement and energy production in the body. And that has created a whole new dimension of how we can perform. And all the coaches that have moved over to this way of looking at movement and of training have achieved higher standards of achievement through their athletes. So if we have said that, the opposite is also true. Fascia dysfunction means that damage or dehydrated fascia means that the body or the athlete loses its elasticity and form within the adhesion of the tissue. It restricts movement, which means it causes pain in the fascia and in the muscles. And then there's another interesting fact that you can just maybe take note of, and that is collagen in fascia. Collagen is a primary protein in fascia and provides strength and elasticity to fascia to support and connect body structures, including muscles, bones, and ligaments. And just a side comment, the longest and strongest collagens are the hardest to make and require the right diet and right movement or training. Through that, you build and strengthen the collagen, which is the fascia, which activates a lot of the energy within the body. I hope I'm not going too quick, and I hope some of you are still with me. But let's quickly move on. So one of the key factors of fascia and of muscle performance is the hydration of the system of the athlete. So the vast majority of the volume of fascia is water, 70% of it. And then if the other factor that we have, that you as a coach have to understand, is that exercise squeezes water from fascia. That means fascia has to be rehydrated continuously. And just a thumbstick, 5 minutes of recovery every 30 minutes to help the tissue recover again. That means that if you train in intervals, it helps to restore the water balance in tissue. 24 to 48 post-intense workout athletes are more prone, 24 to 48 hours post an intense workout, athletes are the highest prone to injuries. And that is primarily because of the loss of water. The other factor that's very interesting is water in fascia is not free water, but rather bound water, in which the H2O molecule is bound along the surface of sugar protein fibrils. So water combined with protein in the fiber actually provides a lubricant that keeps the fascia flexible. And another very interesting fact that you as coaches should actually take note of is that food that are rich in glycose aminoglycans help collagen production, and they actually bind with a lot of water, up to 1,000 times their own weight. So the thinking behind that is, if the athlete takes in too little water, either during training or after training, the first part of the body that suffers is the fascia. So glycose aminoglycans will naturally adhere to collagen everywhere in the body, which means that if there's a deficiency of water, the skin, but also the rest of the fascia, also the tendons, the ligaments, everything will suffer. But as they are sufficiently hydrated, they stay supple. Water in the connective system will coat joints and tissues in tiny electrical clouds, which creates a protective layer of superficial lubricating fluid. And then maybe just get practical quickly. A study that was done quite a number of years ago actually showed how the fascia has become part of the energy provision within the human body. And the study was done on the Achilles, showing that the Achilles has got a capacity of elastic recoil to store energy, but very much similar to a rubber band that gets pulled and then builds up kinetic energy in it, and has then the ability to actually provide additional strength in that tissue. And while I'm on that subject, I would just think or challenge you as coaches. How do you think your athlete can benefit from this knowledge or this information? If you think about sprinters, high jumpers, long jumpers, everybody that has got a certain use of the Achilles and is dependent upon the strength that's provided from the foot, should actually consider this as one of the key factors of improving performance by activating also the Achilles, which is part of the fascial system, to provide additional energy within the performance. Rita, I'm not sure whether you want to open a moment for some comments. Shall I carry on?
You're muted, Rita. Hang on. Sorry.
I think if there are any questions at this stage, before we go on to the foot, you can just for that moment unmute yourself and ask the question. You're more than welcome.
Or type it in the chat.
Or type it in the chat.
Oh, can I have a quick question, Rita? The mention was there made of the Achilles tendon. To what extent does the fascia relate to the stretch reflexes and the other reflexes and tendon?
The fascia is actually a critical part and an integral part of that, because the fascia or let me put it this way, all muscles in the body is encapsulated and packed within fascia. And so the muscle cannot really move on its own and cannot stretch on its own And much of the flexibility that's necessary for a muscle to provide its flexible capacity is dependent upon how the fascia can complement that specific flexibility.
So how do we,
Yes.
how do we enhance that? For example, you spoke about dehydration and so on, its effects. To what extent does the health, for want of a better expression, of the fascia affect the stretch reflex?
I'm so glad for that question, but if you don't mind, I'm going to hold that for a moment, because a little bit later in this presentation, I'll come back to how we can actually complement that.
Okay, just
one
final question. Thank you for that. And one final question from me, and that is that you mentioned glucosamine. Is this something that all athletes should be taking?
It is not something you take. It is something that's produced by the body, that is manufactured within the muscles, actually within the fascia. It creates its own glucose, and so it is not something that you need to, let's put it, add from externally. It is naturally provided within the fascia, and it generates its own glucose aminoglycan.
Well, the reason I'm asking is that I take glucosamine tablets for joint pains and bits and pieces. Are you saying that this is a waste of time, we can't actually take it?
You're putting me on the spot here for something. The one thing that we know is we do not have significant proof in experiments at the moment that prove that adds value to the especially the bigger parts of the fascia tissue in the body.
Okay,
We do know that it does add value to the skin and the superficial fascia underneath the skin.
Okay.
But we're not sure about, we haven't got enough clarity on how it affects the deeper tissue.
Okay, so I'm not wasting my money.
No.
Good.
I think your wrinkles will disappear.
That's very good.
Okay, shall I carry on? Thank you. Thanks for that. I would just quickly like to run through some of the structures of the foot, because understanding the structure is key to understanding the whole concept that we work with athletes, and why the foot is such an important part. There are 26 bones within the foot alone. And if you consider that, you can understand that that is a highly sophisticated and complex system that all has to be coordinated through all the soft tissue to function properly. All the plantar fascia, the tendons, the muscles, the ligaments, everything must actually work seamlessly together to provide the athlete with the capacity to perform optimally. And the reason why I just want to put that forward is that we understand this is a highly complex, but also a great opportunity for coaches to make a difference to their athletes if they focus on understanding the complexities of how the foot functions and what are all the factors that are provided in there. So if you look at the actions that the foot can perform, it is actually so fascinating. We talk of two types of movement within the ankle, which we call dorsiflexion, which means the foot lifting upwards, and plantar flexion, which means the toe pointing downwards. And then we've got two sideways movements. The one is inversion, turning the sole inward, and eversion, turning the sole outward. And then still, the toes can function on their own, meaning toe flexion and extension, which means that if you take activities that you as a coach are involved in to perfect in your athletes, take into account how each one of these movements of the foot can be optimized to provide better performance for your athlete, and how can you then work with each one of those movements to create a better athlete. Just to give you an idea of the complexity of this foot further, just have a look at all the ligaments that are attached inside that foot. The one thing that I want to add here as well is, if any of you as coaches go into a gym and you want to lift 50 or 80 kilograms on a bar, it might be that you can lift it 5 times or 10 times. What you must understand is that this foot that you're looking at here does that specific lifting about 1,000 to 10,000 times per day, where it lifts 50 to 70 or 100 kilograms on its own. And therefore understand that this is an incredible engineering feat that has been created. But the one thing you should understand is that there is an interconnectedness between the leg and the foot. And the foot can never be or act on its own. It is always subject to what's going on in the leg and how the leg actually provides the right framework for the foot to do its job. To take it a little bit further, I'm just going to run through here, but if you look at the muscles that run from the foot in the leg into the foot, you will see that there are so many of the muscles that actually connect directly into the foot and provide some of the foot movements itself. And therefore, we find that many of the injuries or the conditioning that coaches do with their athletes sometimes do not take into account how each of these muscles that are connected to the foot play a role. And if you condition the muscles, please take note that each one of these muscles and tendons should actually be considered to be conditioned to its utmost. If you look at, for instance, just in this these pictures, how the flexi digitorum longus, for instance, goes right into the foot. So if that muscle itself gets stiff or gets a spasm, it will affect the tendon right down into the foot. And often some of the foot problems do not reside in the foot itself, but in the extrinsic muscles that actually lead into the foot. And for treatment, it becomes so much more necessary that we consider this holistic approach as to how this interconnectedness between the foot and the extrinsic muscles actually play a very deep, important role. And the same goes again for the intrinsic muscles. That means all the muscles inside the foot, with their tendons, with the ligaments. It is a highly sophisticated system. And when we consider the top and the bottom, that means the plantar and the dorsal sides of the foot, we should actually consider how we can condition each one of these systems optimally for the foot to provide the action that we need in our athletes. A little bit about foot alignment, and I think we're all aware of the pronation and supination aspects, which means that sometimes we find athletes have got some of these problems. So often I find that people want to correct this with shoes or with inserts in the soles. We have to understand that these alignment problems have got a relevance from what we have just said, from the extrinsic muscles that lead into the foot. And so often we can correct problems like you see in the middle here with a pronation to the inside, that if the muscles leading into the foot can be reconditioned and can be optimized, then the problem in the foot can be corrected to a large extent. We do not need other external factors to influence and to correct these matters necessarily. The one thing that I found in my practice that I get quite regularly is a problem with foot alignment. And it is so easy to detect. If you lie an athlete down and you look, take a picture of the foot, you can see that there is more than one type of alignment problem. And you as coaches should actually consider this regularly, because this does affect the performance of the athlete. You can think for yourself, if, for instance, this athlete with a toe turned to the outside, to the lateral side, means that this athlete cannot apply strength or power over the big toe, which means that they will run on the outside of the foot, which means that they will lose about 30 to 60% of power application on this foot. And that goes for all these other problems. So please be aware of this, because this affects your athlete quite largely. And then again, the same thing goes for knee alignment. Sometimes the knee is also misaligned because it is turned outside or inward. And that does affect a lot of the power application for the athlete, but it also creates an environment for injuries that can occur inside that joint, or also inside the hip joint or the ankle. So all of this can help you to understand why your athletes are struggling. The other issue, also very relevant, gait analysis. That means you analyze your athlete with regard to their stride. That means observing, recording, analyzing, and it does have value to take time and do a proper gait analysis with your athlete to see his stride, his and you can prevent a lot of injuries through that. Also very important is that the shoes or the spikes that your athlete uses should fit the stride of the athlete, the gait of the athlete. And there should be a match between those components. Another aspect that I find in the practice quite often is that the foot alignment is affected by the lateral or the medial hip alignment. That means that either the QL, the quadratus lumborum, or the gluteus medius can turn the hip or the femur, which means that it can either turn it medial or lateral side. And the same goes for the adductors on the inside of the leg. But also the hip flexors can play a big role because they attach to the inside of the femur. If they are tight and short, then they will turn the foot towards the lateral side, which means that you get a misalignment of the foot. So again, I want to stress the problem, the foot problem and the alignment problem of the foot doesn't necessarily is a problem of the foot. It is a problem that should be viewed in a holistic manner, where you look at the other muscles in the leg that actually can determine the factors of alignment, and treating these muscles, and that means to relieve strain from those muscles can actually correct some of the foot issues. Let's quickly get towards some injuries, and I quickly just want to refer to a few of them. Where are we? So if we talk about sprains, it is primarily the ligaments around the ankle that are affected, the medial ligaments, and then also on the anterior side when the foot is turned to the outside. Sprains we refer to in as tears, 1, 2, or 3, which means that as you can see, there's the grading of the tears. So if your athlete gets a sprain, you can have a reference in this to see what is the extent of the injury and how long it will take to repair such an injury, or whether some additional medical assistance would be needed. The one thing I find often that people refer to are plantar fasciitis. That means the inflammation of the plantar fascia that is primarily around the heel of the foot, because it forms small tears because of strain on the adhesion point on the heel. Now, it is a very sensitive subject, because physios has got very different ways of treating plantar and interpreting plantar fasciitis. I've mentioned four specific reasons why this might occur. In the first place, the tightness in intrinsic structure of the foot, that means the metatarsal or the plantar itself, can cause that. But tightness in the extrinsic structures of the foot, that means the calf muscles leading into the foot, or some of the other muscles, must firstly be considered as the cause of this, because we find that much of the strain that leads into the foot leads to a strain of the plantar fascia. And most often we can relieve the strain on the plantar by relieving the strain on the leading muscles into the foot. One of the main causes of this is often rigid shoe soles. And therefore, it is important for coaches to keep an eye on the shoe quality of their runners. Running shoes and spikes has got highly advanced foam inside, but that foam is of such a nature that it can easily lose its capacity to provide protection on the foot. So if it becomes rigid, if it becomes worn out, it will create problems in the heel. or sometimes shoe mismatch with the gait of the athlete might also create this problem. Be also on the lookout for heel collapse on a shoe. That will definitely create a plantar fasciitis issue. And then we get to another one of my favorites, and that is Achilles tendonitis. That means in the Achilles, you find a inflammation. One of the reasons is obviously the calf muscles get tight. The Achilles is part of the calf muscle structure in the leg. And if there occurs tightness there, you will find that the strain can create inflammation in the calves. The other issue that you should also take into account is that behind the knee, that means the popliteal area behind the knee, the fascia in that area is likely to thicken, and it is because people tend to sit with their legs drawn in underneath them. That means bending more than 90 degrees for longer periods of time, especially the longer athletes. When they do flying and sit in crowded areas, they will complicate this area behind the knee. And any thickening or tightening of the tissue behind the knee will tighten up the muscles leading into the Achilles. And that is something that should definitely be released and be treated. Another injury that we often get also is stress fractures in the foot, tiny cracks in bones, often in the metatarsal. Some of the reasons for that is repetitive stress or overuse, overtraining, poor footwear, hard training surfaces, or other underlying conditions like osteoporosis in the feet or in the bones. Another very common problem that we find is shin splints. That is a inflammation in the fascia or in the inner edge of the shin bone. There's a thin sheets of tissue that can be through because of overuse or strain can get inflamed, and it is extremely painful. So especially running uphill or training on stairs can create this problem and actually enhance it. So if you find that somebody has got problems with this, please refrain from pushing them further in doing those specific training schedules. Improper footwear is also a big problem that causes this. Hard training surfaces, and then also the stiffening of the tibial fascia and anterior leg muscles definitely also affect this. One of the other common problems we find in athletes is the Morton's neuroma, which is a little nerve in between the foot bones that gets irritated or damaged. And there are some of the reasons, the causes for that: wearing tight or high-heeled shoes. And sometimes when the shoe that the athlete wears is too narrow for that athlete's foot, it can also cause this. High impact activity, that means plyometric drills, explosiveness training, box jumps, all those type of things can also create the sensitivity. Obviously, improper footwear and hard training surfaces. So let's look quickly at proactive strategies for footwear That means the right shoe for the right foot. Take into account gait analysis. That means the importance of getting a professional gait analysis and a shoe to match that gait particular character of the athlete. Remember that there is a crucial point in when we should replace shoes. This is just a thumbs-up general rule, but be aware that the moment foot problems occur in your athlete, first consider the footwear. It is crucial that they wear the right footwear. One of the other things that I found interesting in athletes that very few athletes know about, and it can make a big difference, and that is something as simple as running shoe lacing techniques. Not all of us have got the same foot structure. And if you find that you have a very particular foot structure, that means a narrow forefoot or need a roomier front foot, a wide forefoot, be aware that you can lace your shoes differently. And it does make quite a significant difference if you attend and just apply a different way of lacing your shoe, and you might find that even that will help you a lot in avoiding injuries or discomfort in your shoes. Another proactive strategies we should consider is all around the spikes that the athletes use. These days, they all tend to use the super spike. It's a new lightweight super spikes that use lightweight foams. We call it PEBA foams, or TPES, thermoplastic elastomers, which is a highly sophisticated foams that provide a lot of extra flexibility and potential of the foot to perform better. So it is normally provided with a carbon fiber plate underneath the foot. The microcellular foaming for these super spikes are treated with carbon dioxide or nitrogen, and that means it gives it a very high density, but then also it's highly lightweight, but it has got some serious characteristics that can improve some of the performance of the athletes. The one thing we should consider is that these sophisticated foams do not necessarily have the same lifespan of traditional foams. And one should be aware that some of these foam conditions can deteriorate quite rapidly. And just keep an eye on your athlete and on their shoes or their spikes, that they use spikes that still do what it's supposed to do. So then maybe one of the other things, sprint performance is determined by acceleration and top speed, how much, but also through the horizontal ground reaction force that an athlete can put onto the ground with in running. And that varies from athlete to athlete. Their size, their strength in the foot or the leg, their weight, their style of running, their gait. So all of that determines this, and one should be sensitive that the footwear that they use also matches all of these characteristics in the footwear that they use. Just a few interesting ones that these days are on the market. very interesting note. Puma produced a spike there on the left that in 1968 with all of those spikes underneath, and but that specific spike was banned by the Athletic Association at that stage. These days, all the new spikes actually provide exactly that, but then with carbon fiber plates and very sophisticated foamware inside. And this is just a kind of a overview of some of the variables that you can have a look at. So one of the questions would be, how can we be proactive in doing the right thing with our feet? The first one is, let's look at how we can strengthen and improve the mobility of the feet. Because strong feet is this means you've got a strong foundation for your runner. So if you look at conditioning the intrinsic foot muscles, you can look at toe splay, spreading the toes apart, which means that there is some real value in working with your athletes with barefoot. That means that there are some incredible results produced by athletes that also train barefoot on soft surfaces for certain periods of time, because that develops some of the intrinsic muscles in the foot. Stuff can be used such as toe curls, short foot exercises. All of these conditionings that I mention here is just actually to jog your memory a little bit. It's actually bios is actually the right people to give you ideas on this. But so if you consider some of this stuff, it might jog your memory to some other conditioning activities that you can do with your athletes as well.
Peter, can
yes.
I ask a couple of questions? I've got loads, but we don't have the time for all of them.
Yes, sure.
First of all, a big question in coaches' minds at the moment is that there appears to have been an increase in the incidence of injuries in the metatarsal area that appear to be connected to the new shoes and the frequency of using them. Do you have any advice on that? And kind of related to that question is, you didn't mention the plantar vault, but you did imply it in terms of the structure of the foot. Is it possible that we don't work on the integrity of the plantar vault early enough in a young person's life? Because a couple of your photographs clearly showed that person had no plantar vault left.
Thank you very much for that. And just a quick comment on that from my side. I would very much like some input from some of the other people on this forum on that. But the two things I want to mention. The one is, most of the shoes and the equipment that's provided is provided for advanced athletes and senior athletes. We find in our practice that many of the young people that means people at school that train or do athletics develop early foot problems. And we feel that is due to the fact that these shoes not necessarily provide for feet that hasn't closed all the growth plates yet. That means that that is why we would advise that even barefoot training or even if it's just certain conditioning aspects with barefoot is done, so that we do not overstrain the foot of the growing athlete, because there are many changes happening in the feet of youngsters, and the girls different from the boys again. So your question is actually so relevant that there are many aspects around this that should be considered, that we don't all jump on the same bandwagon to say, let's get the best spike for my runner. Consider how you will develop, and how the runner must still develop with regard to his structure in an anatomical fashion. I hope
thank you,
that.
Pieter.
Thank you for that.
I also find that the top athletes, if you look at some of their training programs, like the world record holder in the 400-meter hurdle, Sydney McLaughlin, she would often do some hill running in loose sand, and obviously to assist her feet so that she doesn't fall into the trap of having injuries, obviously with her high performance spikes.
Thank you. Yeah, we've advised some of our junior athletes that they should still have some of the old spikes available in which they train, and only use some of these very sophisticated spikes, which have got hard plate soles and put a lot of strain on the plantar areas of the foot, that they only use that for the races, so that you minimize the exposure of the feet to some of those conditions. But there are, I think there's some other advice that we can get from some of the other coaches as well. I'll try and go through this as quick as possible from here on forward. So the one thing, let's look at why, the why behind injuries. One of the factors are biomechanical factors. That means overpronation, supination. That means tightness in the extrinsic foot muscles or tendons. That means coming down from the calves or even the anterior area of the foot, tightening of the intrinsic foot muscles, the gait imbalances, asymmetries in stride, muscle weakness, alignment of the foot problems, as we've discussed, and then also training errors. And I think this is very important for our coaches to open the floor on the discussion on this. That means sometimes we get so excited about upcoming Olympic Games or a big meet for the athletes that we go too much too soon. So coaches should actually be very aware in the way that they expose their athletes to training conditions. Inadequate rest and recovery, that means overtraining, lack of coordination in activities. We find very interesting that there's very little talk between, or communication between, the coach on the track, the coach in the gym, and then the strength trainer. And each one of those have got an objective of their own with the athlete, but they don't necessarily work within the same frame as to understand that how their program impacts the work that the athlete is doing in the gym or on the track. So all of this should be coordinated, and it will help to prevent a lot of injuries. And then obviously improper footwear and hard surfaces and so on. So the myofascial system and injuries, very interesting, just to give you an idea of the complexity of this. Most injuries are connective tissue injuries. The best way we can train is to build resilience and elasticity in our system. And fascia is a system of stability and mechanoregulation. And every cell in the body is hooked into and responds to the tension environment of the fascia, linking to the comment of Frank Dick earlier today. And just to come, I don't want to go into too much of this as I said, we will give you the presentation. You can work through it afterwards. But if you look at the inflammation, is a culprit. That means under acute inflammation, the body's response is to elevate the white blood cell count, which attack free radicals and release collagenesis in the blood. Under chronic inflammation or congestion, that means poor diet and environmental factors, the fascial system suffers, leading to injuries, instability, poor motor control. Sugar and vegetable oil combined with nutrient-deficient foods make up the perfect pro-inflammatory diet. So there are ways that you can actually harm your system if you eat the wrong foods. Poor diet will negatively affect collagen in the skin and fascia, negatively influencing aging, joint stability, and function. Collagen is made from raw materials we must eat. Unlike other tissues, it is completely sensitive to metabolic imbalances. So Frank, one of the best ways to help collagen heal is to eat some.
Okay.
And eat it in raw foods. So just to give you an idea, top inflammatory foods to avoid: sugar, vegetable oils, trans fat, that means they cook, cookies, pies, fried fruit, foods, frozen foods, margarines, and so on, pasteurized dairy, feedlot raised meats, processed meats, alcohol, refined grains, and artificial food additives. Just to give you an idea of some of the food to avoid that will create inflammation in the body. So which are the foods then that is anti-inflammatory in the body? Fruits, that means berries, cherries, oranges, grapes, avos, herbs, a range of the herbs, and then fish rich in omega-3, green tea, good fats, that means avo oil, olive oil, and vegetables, especially a lot of the green veggies, and then nuts and seeds is also a very good anti-inflammatory food with good oils. Let's quickly get to the proactive strategies in regard to recovery. For the coaches to take note, the 3 R's of recovery, and I like to keep it very simple. We have to understand we need some pegs for our athletes to hold on to. That if you tell them there are 3 R's for recovery, the one is rest, refuel, and rehab. That means scheduled rest is non-negotiable. Refueling, that means proper nutrition, and rehab, active recovery and prehab exercises. And then you can also use therapeutic tools such as foam rolling, massage, ice baths, cold therapy, compression socks, and you might mention maybe 20 others if you want. But just keep it as simple as possible for the athletes to manage. And then just a very interesting comment. We are all familiar as coaches with a recovery process we call RICE, which means that we rest, ice, compression, and elevation. That is a very old model of recovery for injuries, and especially for sprains and tears. RICE does apply for the first 2 days until the swelling and the pain subsides. But the acronym that we want to use these days is MEAT, and it has become the go-to process for our elite athletes for recovery. That means from the beginning of immediately after the first 2 days, we want to go into movement with the athlete. That means gentle, controlled movement. Prevent to prevent stiffness and scar tissue buildup, and to improve the circulation. And the body can then start the healing process itself. The second one is exercise. That means you restore mobility, you strengthen the injured area, and you prevent re-injury. The A is for analgesics. That means anti-inflammatories, pain management, metabolic buildup with the right diet. And then the T is for treatment. That means releasing tension around the injury, massage, joint mobilization, and taping. So if ever you have serious injuries in your athletes, please start considering this acronym as the way of treating. We find that we can limit or improve the recovery of our athletes dramatically by immediately activating rather than making them passive and just sitting them down. When to seek professional help? Our athletes should understand not to ignore pain. That means to differentiate between discomfort and pain. And for many of our elite athletes, that's very difficult because they think pain is a form of good training ethics. But they have to understand that there is a difference between discomfort and pain. And when it's pain, it needs to be treated. So signs of serious issue: persistent pain that doesn't subside with rest, sharp stabbing pain, swelling, redness or heat in the area, or changes in gait or limping. Who to see? Physical or physiotherapist for biomechanical analysis, myofascial release, and so on. Sports medicine physician for diagnosis and medical treatment plans, or sports massage therapist for physical therapy and massage, or other relevant professional specialists like chiro, radiologist, and so on. So as a conclusion, let's quickly just recap. Prioritize proper footwork. Incorporate foot and ankle strengthening. That means conditioning of your athlete's primary function, which is the foot. Embrace rest and recovery. Ensure soft and supple myofascial tissue. And listen to your body. By treating your feet and body with care they deserve, you don't just prevent injuries, you're enhancing your athlete's capacity to performance. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rita.
Outstanding.
Unmute. Okay, I would like to say is that I think that we always assume, you know, and we hear so often, don't treat the symptoms, find the cause. And I think that in a lot of cases today and tonight, we start thinking about different causes to lead us to the eventual injury. And Pieter, I would really like to thank you for this insightful message that we have. But to really do that much better than what I can, I'd like to ask Frank to give his final thoughts on this lecture and then give a short summary, what he's really good at doing. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Rita. Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
So I'm hearing an echo. So thank you very much indeed, Rita. And my goodness, Pieter, what an outstanding piece of insight into the human body and to its connectedness. We spoke about communication and connection to begin with, and that's what you've actually spoken about here, the connection of the different aspects of the body, how we connect, and what the ultimate consequences can be. As I said, I have loads of questions and will certainly follow up on these, but too many to ask you tonight. I thought you've really you've really opened my eyes to the importance of understanding the integrity of our systems in our body. I'll give you just so that you understand why I understand much of what you're talking about. Is some time ago I was invited to work with a boy called Boris Becker, tennis player, by Jon Tiriac, and the problem was that Boris couldn't move his feet fast enough. You will all remember that he used to dive around the court, and that was really because he couldn't get his feet to move to the ball, so he dived instead. And so it was my job to try and work out exercises that would sort this out. The problem was, just as you've very clearly illustrated, that early on in his life, no one had taken care of the small muscles in his feet or the muscles all the way up to the spine. And as a consequence, he was dead-footed. He was always flat-footed on the ground and didn't move. So the key to the trick, from my point of view, having spoken to Hans Müller-Wohlfahrt in Munich and to some of his colleagues, was how can we design exercises for this? And so I did. I created what I thought were very clever exercises, but I missed the most important point that coaches should remember when they're coaching. You don't coach what you see, you coach where it's come from. And you've well illustrated here, Peter, that is the truth. We must, we see evidence, that's a consequence in front of us. Where has it come from? And how can we deal with that? I mean, part of my thinking at this point was, it's his coordination, he's being stupid, or all this, but it wasn't. It was, if we could deal with his feet and the small muscles that were related to all of this, then we'd have a solution. And so we did. We created things, just as you said, exercises standing on sand in bare feet and swinging one leg as high and to the front and to the back as we could. Then across in front of the body and out to the side, behind the body, but behind the standing leg and out to the side. Then drawing figure eights in the air. And of course, a lot of people said, but you're exercising this leg that you're wagging around. I said, no. We are exercising the leg he's standing on because we did both feet. And the good news is that he learned to move his feet faster. So what I'm saying to my colleagues here is everything that Peter said is gold dust. This is absolute gold dust. It's for us to use our imagination to capture the various principles and ideas. He's even given us checklists at the end. I'd like us to really look at our own coaching and work out, what are we doing to make sure that this foundation, the feet, this foundation that on which we depend for everything in track and field, everything, how do we make sure we get our job right in making sure that that's done right? Peter, thank you so much. Rita, thank you so much for inviting. What a wonderful guest. Peter, you'll be hearing from Rita very shortly because I'd like you to, I'm so impressed with what you've done. I'd like this to be linked to something quite big with World Athletics, and I'll be in touch with you about that. My dear
friend, appreciate it.
Thank you to all my colleagues out there. Jimson, wonderful job again, mate. Great job. Peter, thank you. Rita, thank you. And all my friends in coaching in Africa. Let's make this the start of something big.
Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you, Peter, and everybody that attended. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm just going to close the Zoom session. This webinar is recorded and it will be on the website in the next few days. And you will also find the slide deck of today's presentation on the website. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jimson.
Very professional job all the way through tonight, folks. Thank you so much. What a great team. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much again, Peter. I really appreciate all your trouble and your input. I mean, it's so much to think about. Yeah. And I thought I was quite not so bad with the feet, but I've got a long way to go.
Thank you. Enjoy the coaching. Thanks.
Well, yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimson.
My pleasure. Speak soon. Bye now.